folks, transforming personal experiences into powerful results in the executive therapeutic coach and consultant space. Additionally, we're going to discover what an MFT is, what's the difference with that, leadership skills, emotional fitness, and how we can take ourselves to the next level. We have the perfect guest with Lisa here today. So stay tuned and learn a bunch. Cheers, show. Cheers, friends. It's going to be a good one. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Dr. Aaron Morning Show, where we go over tips, tricks, ideas, and exercise to help make you the absolute best person you can be, not only for yourself, but for the people you love and care about most. Everyone give a warm welcome to my new friend, Lisa. Lisa, good morning. How are you doing?
Dude, you got it going on.
That's so nice for you to say.
No, you really have it going on. It's really exciting. You seem really passionate about what you do. I'm really happy to be here.
Where are you calling in from today? I know you're
I'm in the Bay Area. I'm in the Bay Area.
How long have you lived there?
Oh, a long time. A long time. Can't even remember, but a long time.
Do you think
20+ years.
You think that's a huge part of being able to be emotionally fit, location, being at living in the Bay Area, sunshine a lot. I live in the Midwest and our winters suck. There's some times where it feels pretty tough.
Right. And so the thing that makes the difference is your mindset and your radical self-care practices. And I mean, there's a reason you're living there, right? And you have to ask yourself, what is the cost benefit to all of our decisions? I mean, same thing with the Bay Area. I mean, I have a desire to move closer to water, right? And that would cost me missing friends and family, but that might be worth it. But I think same thing with the Midwest. You got to do the analysis of the cost benefit, just like everything else with our businesses, with our relationships. It's all cost benefit, right?
Do you have is this something that you check in with yourself, or is there a tool or exercise that you do for a cost benefit? It's one of those things that makes too much sense, but I just don't take the time to do it, you know?
Well, I disagree because you have your what do you call it? Your one page
life plan. Yeah, right. Love it.
So the 1-page life plan is the same thing, but you have to look at it daily. Right. And the way I guide my clients, and I've been in this body of work of helping people, working with people, inspiring people for over 30 years. So for me, it's second nature, but I love your questions like, how do you do this? And it's really about designing and creating daily self-care practices that ignite you to have the life that you want. But let's say someone is brand new beginner. They don't even know where to begin to doing that. I mean, there are so many areas of self-care that are key, like keeping boundaries, being financially fit with I call it money mindfulness practices. And I have a whole slew of free tools on my website that we'll link up later, but that's a good way to start. Also, firing your inner bully, meaning paying attention to that inner voice that is critical. And then once you start to expand your awareness of how you talk to yourself, that's when you can begin to change it. All of these practices start with awareness.
When you say inner bully, I can't help but almost I don't even know how to describe it. It kind of like jolts me up a little bit because I do. Like when the awareness, as it's growing, like it does feel like I am like bullying myself a lot when, yeah, why? Can you kind of elaborate on what
Well,
that inner bully is?
can I ask you a hard question? Bring you
Yeah,
into
why
your
not?
own show. What
Yeah.
is something that your inner bully says to you?
I, that sounds harsh, but maybe that I'm not good enough, or I'm not doing enough. Um,
That's what I was going to guess, right? Now, there's then people say, "Yeah, but that's my drive. That's what ignites me to keep going." I disagree. Your why and your purpose is what drives you to keep going. We don't need to keep going with the critical words that you would never say to me. I would never get on a coaching call with you and you said, "Lisa, you're not doing enough and you're not good enough and you should just freaking hang up your hat and call it a day." Like, you would never say that to me. That's how you can identify that it's your inner bully. Can I go on to elaborate?
yeah, please.
Okay. So our inner bullies come from a place probably from people who thought they were doing good. But we've now adopted them as fear, and it grows unconsciously. So if you think about it, it's like a railroad track. It's just deeply ingrained. It's not going anywhere. It's solid. It has its job, and it's hard to get rid of. It's hard to get rid of a railroad track. If you think of the railroad track in the just here in the United States, right? And so what we do to get off the railroad track is bring that deep unconscious patterning to consciousness, like I was talking about earlier. You expand your awareness. How do you expand your awareness? You start writing down what you hear yourself saying to yourself. You ask yourself, would I ever say that to a friend or a client? And we know your answer is no, Tanner. So that's how you know that it's your inner bully. And you start with that process, expanding your awareness. Then I come on another episode and we teach people how to keep going with it. I mean, it's quite a process, and I don't want to overwhelm people, but the whole thing we're doing is bringing our deep unconscious thoughts to consciousness so that we can make choices. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, the like choices that really serve like what we want to do. And the friend example always, I can't help but smile a little bit because some of it, when you bring it to light, how ridiculous sometimes it can be. And I liked how you said, would you say that to your friend? And I wouldn't even say half this stuff to my enemies because you know what I mean? Like that's, yeah.
When you say there's one of those, you're bringing what you're saying to consciousness. Now, when we say there's one of those, we're actually asking our brain to pay attention to it. So, do you drive a car? Do you drive?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, you remember when you were learning to drive, how awake you were to all the nuances of driving. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing with this practice. When we say there's one of those, we're bringing it to consciousness so that we can change it.
But the recognition and this exercise, yeah, just writing down and just kind of keeping track of it. I think I can't help but hear this over and over again. I read in a book, they were just talking about you can't manage what you don't measure. And why would internal dialogue and this concept of like bullying be any different?
Very good. I had a client recently, a young woman who had a mean inner bully. I mean, like her inner bully was driving her life. Like she was going really crazy. I thought, I was like, there's no way. So I made her say everything to me that she wrote down that her inner bully said to her. And she was just like, no way, I'm not going to say that to you. And I'm like, yeah, you are. If you're saying it to yourself, then get used to it, because you could see how outrageous it was when you were forced to say it to somebody else. It's like, there's no way I'm going to do that.
With the people who have the privilege to work with you, and by the way, all of Lisa's links and descriptions and stuff will be in the description for this video, connecting with her, like her newsletter and stuff. But do you see kind of like what's probably like the most common pattern or challenge you think that your clients and even yourself run into?
Well, there's a nuance here. So you can say this mean stuff to yourself, but it's the parts that you really believe that's the hardest to unpack. And that's usually from early wounding and early trauma. And so you said in the intro, we're going to understand the difference between a marriage and family therapist or a licensed psychotherapist and a life coach. You know, I certainly coach people in life practices, but my licensure as a therapist certainly gives me a whole other level of experience and expertise. So I know in the last, 5-7 years, a lot of people have become, certified as coaches. For those of us who are licensed, we're sort of like, come on, that's sort of a joke, because the power between being a therapist in addition to an executive coach or a leadership coach is that I can help people look at healing, which is looking at the past, and then guiding them toward transformation, which is stepping into a future version of themselves. And that's the power of it. So I think people want a quick fix of just like, okay, life coach, I'm going to go on. But if you don't do the work to understand how you got kind of stuck in the first place, it doesn't really have lasting power.
When I think of stuff, I just think a lot of people who I've had the privilege to meet, and it seems impossible to get through life without scars and wounds and traumas. And where do we, but I'm trying to think of how you know the difference between what is impactful and what's like a story that's not really true. Like we were talking about this inner bully. This inner bully tells me stories that are just, that garbage isn't even true. But then there's experiences I've had with like family in the past that I thought like really beat me up and caused some damage, So like, how can we really know the difference, or like, you know what I mean? Like what to focus on?
It's a beautiful question. It's a beautiful question. So here we go. What happened to you is real. The impact it had on you is real. Your feelings and your reactions are yours. No one gets to ever take those away from you. Now, where you get really good support is, what do we want to do in spite of that happening to you? Or what do you want to do because that happened to you? Right? And so, like, the work that you do with clients is phenomenal. I've been following you. I'm inspired by you. I have loved my conversations with you. It's obvious you've done work on yourself, but it doesn't mean necessarily that you have had the right person to unpack maybe more of the trauma that's happened to you. So as you get more sophisticated in your body of work, it will actually strengthen your ability to look at the things that have had longer lasting impact. So I'll give an example. I was in a conversation with a man who's probably in his 50s, and he was beat up and robbed as a delivery man as a 19-year-old kid. And the psychiatrists and the therapists came in and they said to him, be careful, because a trauma like this can come and sneak in and bite you in the ass some point in your life. And he's like, no, I'm fine. I mean, you can imagine kind of the arrogance of a 19-year-old kid, like, whatever, I got beat up. But he got beat up very, very badly. And he's now starting to talk about some of that trauma and the impact that it's having on him, and his heightened anxiety or his depression that he sort of doesn't know where it comes from. When you work with someone like me, I can help you discover that, not stay stuck in it, but transform your personal stories into transformation and lasting results. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this idea of, I'm not good with the words on it, but
take your
like
time.
when I hear people talk about energy and how it's like when we have these experiences, it creates like energy inside us, like unfortunately what this man endured. And then until it is like nurtured or processed or released, it's like it's always there in a way.
Very good. So I often tell people that trauma, or any experiences you have that are stored inside without words, it's sort of like you're holding your breath. When you find a good therapeutic healing relationship, then it's very much like you are exhaling the trauma. And when you sit with someone who empathizes and understands and doesn't need anything from you, that's why the therapeutic relationship can be so healing, because it isn't back and forth. It is one-sided and should be. You're paying for that therapist's expertise. And so that's where the healing begins, right? And people say, oh, it's too expensive and I can't do it. There are a lot of good online therapeutic resources now. Better Health, Better Up, so many wonderful resources. And I think if you find a good therapist, it's sort of like dating, and you have to look around and you have to keep asking more questions about what it is that you need. You know, if you want the therapist to be more interactional, if you want someone to be more the quiet and listening, I mean, you have to ask for what you need, which is really good practice too.
I find it interesting, and I got an idea you'd explain it well. Why I spend money on a bunch of dumb stuff that makes no sense. I don't even think about it. But to like heal myself Like, why is there such a big pushback on, is it just because it's hard and difficult and messy, or like why is there such like a
Resist.
pushback for resistance? Yeah.
Well, because once you start paying for it and once you sign up for it, you're admitting that something's a little off. Right? If you don't hire someone like me to really help you dive into the places where you're stuck in your life, then you get to continue to solve it externally. Alcohol, work, sex, your phone, the devices, all the ways that we numb out. But once you start to invest on going in, then you're really coming face to face with the truth of, yeah, something's a little bit off in how I feel or what I'm thinking.
Yeah. This is, some days I feel like I just am having a bad day. And I think, or at least I'm under the impression that it's okay to have days where you don't feel good or feel 100%, with everything from like the flu, or say if you were off on your diet a little bit and this and that. But how can we find the balance of feeling off and giving ourselves a little grace that I'm not doing a backflip every morning I get out of bed, versus like I am very slow right now. I am not doing or I'm not feeling the way I really want to feel.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's what I say. This is my famous quote. Like, know your feelings, pay attention to your feelings, but don't make decisions based on your feelings. Make decisions based on your values. So I guide my clients to have radical self-care practices and radical self-compassion practices. And so when you have your solid practices and you intend to stick with those, right? We don't waver from our practices because we know they're good for us. So then your feelings go up and down, but your values stay the same. And then let's say you really just freaking don't feel like writing your affirmations or your gratitude in the morning. Well, give yourself a break. Can you do it at night? Or can you just let yourself have a day off? There is something to be said about consistency, and I'm always in this debate with my clients around rigorous consistency is great, but if it precludes you from having self-compassion when you're off, then I don't know how good I mean, this is just the ongoing debate that I have. But if for the most part you can get your daily practices in, then we just sort of watch our moods come and go, because I mean, you may have hormones surging through your body, but as women in particular, like we have these hormonal fluctuations every month, our whole lives, right? And so we have to grow that level of self-compassion.
Yeah, that seems like I remember doing this breathing exercise, and this person was kind of talking us through it, and I just having me imagine like swimming like up the current of the river, and it kind of is a good analogy of like me kind of in this like battle all the time, and then he's like, let's go to the bank and get out and let's look around for a moment. And it kind of was like, yeah, just kind of being something about this observer approach and kind of like fighting the current.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Thank you very much for that. I love that. Sometimes, I have a lot of tools in my toolbox, but for myself, sometimes I'll do art, and that helps me kind of process through whatever's going on. And I've had a lot of practice. I'm almost 60, and I've been doing this for 50 years. So that's a lot of practice. So we have to have compassion for ourselves too when we're beginners. But, I sounded like this when I was 10 or 15 or 18. This is how I talked, because I always worked on personal development. I've always been interested in it since I was a little girl. So I get it. Keep on keeping on. It's worth it.
This, I gotta bring it up with this here's Lisa's website. It'll be in the description, but this My Hearty Kid, and I was reading through this. I think this is something I'm just going to have you kind of explain what it is, like how it's helping and kind of like its impact. It's really interesting.
So when my daughter was in kindergarten, she had this cute best friend who was afraid to raise her hand to go to the bathroom. And I was like, oh my God, this poor kid's going to be traumatized. So I told the little girl, if you practice being brave, then I will make you a surprise at the end of the week. And I actually have the little toy I made her. I made her this little toy at the end of the week. Had a little heart head and hands, and it had a little necklace on it that said, I am brave. And she loved it. And the other kids loved it. So I created this whole program called My Hearty Kid. And it wants to be out there in the world, but I am so full doing all these other parts of my life that I haven't really been promoting it that much. But I sure hope that someone like Ellen or Oprah or someone will come and find it and say, this has to be. All of these kids in this photo are seniors just about to graduate. That's how old the program is. And I volunteered and taught it for a long time, and I love it. I don't know if it'll ever come alive, but it's out there in the world.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Before we cut out of here today, Lisa, I wanted to kind of hear from you what impact do you want to have on the world, and like what do you think your gift is to give to the world?
I think this conversation really covered it. The level of empathy and compassion I have for people, along with tools of how to get unstuck. I'm very good at helping people both heal and transform. That's what therapeutic coaching is. It's this understanding of the psychology and then helping them with the strategy. And all of that equals, like you have written up about me, emotional fitness. That is emotional fitness. And I love that you brought up My Hearty Kid, because I think that's my true calling. It's just, I'm not there yet. I don't have the funding for it yet. But one day, I feel blessed, happy to have work that I love.
Yeah.
And have conversations with people like you. And, I feel like I'm doing what I'm meant to do on the planet. So
that's beautiful. Well, everyone, this is my new friend, Lisa. She's absolutely incredible. You can connect with her. There's a lot of links in the description below. But we're going to head out for today. You guys keep your on in case you need to hear it. I love you. You're badass. You got this. Let's have a good day today. And Lisa, wave goodbye, everybody. We're heading out. We're peacing out for the show. Cheers, friends. You guys have an awesome day. Peace.
Beautiful.